Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum and James. How you going, guys?
Yeah, not bad.
Good. You can please send in your requests.
Yeah, so if there's any new listeners or any old listeners out there, like I know we don't engage a lot on social media.
It's because we never get messages. It's always active.
Sometimes we get comments and stuff. Sometimes we get messages, and it's just like we just don't engage. We're not super active on social media.
That's true.
We definitely send your questions and stuff in.
We see everything.
And we see them, and we'll talk about them on the show. But that's my point is, even though we're not super active online, please, if you listen to the show and you have a question or a comment, on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, message us, DM us, whatever, at Tuesday Review AU. And you can also send us an email at the Tuesday Review at outlook.com. So at Tuesday Review AU for our social media, or the Tuesday Review at outlook.com. You can email us questions, comments, whatever you want, and we can respond on the show.
Yeah, hit us up.
Yeah, so even though we're not always tweeting and whatever, we still see your comments and we appreciate them. But if you have any questions or comments about things, even if it's from like a episode you listened to weeks and weeks ago, let us know, and
let us know if we're wrong.
Yeah,
that's it. Fight about it. We'll fight about it on the show. All right.
Yeah. Should we? So this week we'll talk about a couple movies, and then we'll see how much time we have after that. So earlier this year, I saw a movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it automatically was like the best movie of the year. And now it's the end of the year, and I still think it's the best movie I've seen this year. Now, in saying that, there's a lot of movies that came out this year, as with every year, that I haven't had time or money to go and see.
That were not accessible to us.
Yeah, most of the best movies don't come out to our local mainstream release cinemas, so you have to go out of your way to see them. Everything Everywhere All at Once was one of these movies, but I made an effort to go out and see that way back earlier this year.
Boy, do I regret not going with you.
Yeah. But my point is, like, there are other movies that I want to see that might also be my favorite movies of the year, but so far, Everything Everywhere All at Once is the best movie this year. And I told Callum and Nathan, you have to watch it. Luckily, it's come out on Blu-ray and 4K, so now it's pretty accessible. And you guys watch it, and
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. And you got
movie of the year.
Yeah, you guys agreed. You're like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's that old Top Gun.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And don't get me wrong, Top Gun's awesome.
Yeah.
But you know what you're getting with Top Gun? This was like a fun, interesting...
This is... what I say to people is...
cool movie.
This is the best directed and edited movie I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, the editing's awesome.
There is so much going on.
Yeah.
And it is moving so quickly, and there's so much details that I'm like, this shouldn't work. It
should be a mess.
Thinking about it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Like the logistics of it is insane, and they pulled it off. So it's about, we won't do spoilers, because I still think it's a new movie and I think it's worth people seeing. But anything we do say is not going to spoil the movie because it's so crazy and it's not going to make sense unless you've seen the movie. But anyway,
best movie about a bagel ever.
Yeah. Saddest hot dog fingers moment I've seen at cinema in a long time.
The only hot dog fingers moment I've seen. But the most heartfelt scene you'll ever see with two rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most tender love scene again with hot dog fingers.
Yeah, with hot dog.
They're so versatile.
Also,
you can buy those. A24. The A24 store has hot dog finger gloves.
Oh wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Also has the best use of googly eyes in a while.
Yeah.
Lots of googly eyes.
Always appreciate googly eyes. But yeah, so if you're not familiar with the movie, it's about Michelle Yeoh plays a aging Chinese immigrant who runs a laundromat with her family. And she's basically like
Evelyn.
Yeah, Evelyn Wang. And she's just an ordinary mother and wife and
just
business,
trying to get by.
just trying to get by. And then all this crazy stuff happens, and she finds out there's a infinite multiverse out there, and for some reason there's an evil being trying to destroy
all the
multiverses, and for some reason she is the one who can defeat the villain, and even though she's just an ordinary middle-aged woman, whatever, and it's like earlier this year as well, like because the multiverse is so hot right now, like everything has a multiverse in it.
Yeah.
And obviously superheroes and multiverses go together like peas and carrots. Like it's but now the MCU is multifying. They're going full steam ahead into that part of the comic book lore. And so far it's been pretty meh.
Yeah, I mean, we were hyped for Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
and then
Loki was good, but it's like it wasn't a great multiverse. It wasn't particularly great multiverse.
We expected Raimi's Doctor Strange movie to kind of deliver on that at least a little bit.
Yeah, Doctor Strange 2 was disappointing.
That was, whatever.
And it's like, for Callum and I were talking about it, like for this movie, which is like maybe a quarter of the budget of a Marvel movie, maybe even a sixth or eighth of a budget, depending on how big the budget of these Marvel movies get. Like everything everywhere all at once is so much more impressive just in terms of what they achieved. Yeah. Not to mention the story and characters is so affecting and emotional and funny.
So it proves that you don't need a gigantic cast. You don't, cause, I mean, it has
there are a lot of characters in the movie,
like main characters,
but you don't. Yeah, you don't need a big. You don't need big name stars. Yeah. I mean, Michelle Yeoh is famous. Yeah, but
in a short round.
Yeah, and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the cast is stacked.
The cast is incredible. But you know what I mean. You don't need.
And Randy Newman plays Rocket Jr.
So good.
You don't need. Damn, I lost my train of thought. You don't need a big budget. You don't need a million people on screen all at once. You don't need that many locations. Yeah. Because this film, it has a few locations, but it uses them effectively. And it gets they get their money's worth out of each location in the film. It's crazy.
Like, if you think about it, the whole movie takes place in the IRS tax office.
And the laundromat. Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm like, they use what they have so effectively.
Yeah. And yet, when you go and when you travel the multiverses and there's different versions of Evelyn and her husband Wayman, and there's like different places and it's just like it feels so infinite.
Much bigger. Yeah,
where one of the big criticisms we had of something like Doctor Strange 2 was like, oh, they go to like one different universe.
They went to like a couple, but like they weren't there long, and they didn't explore them. They didn't explore them enough.
Yeah, and so just on a technical level.
Yeah,
this movie with a lot less resources did so much more than a $200 million superhero movie. Then on top of that, just in terms of the writing, characters, story, it's so strong, so much stronger than any superhero movie that's come out in a long time.
You know why I think it was so good, especially for their budget, was because instead of sending Evelyn out into the multiverse, they essentially bring the multiverse to Evelyn.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like kind of what Into the Spider-Verse also does. It brings the multiverse to you.
It grounds it as well because you have a home base.
You have everything you need in the story to navigate in your own area. Yeah. You don't have to worry about the storylines in every other multiverse and see
also
what's going on
the way she traverses the multiverse in a sense is mental, right? So it allows her in almost like a Matrix-like fashion to sort of almost download the skills she needs.
Speaking of the Matrix, this is a much better Matrix movie than Resurrections.
Because you have an operator in a sense.
You got Wayman, you got
Alpha Wayman. He's like the operator, and you've got. There's even an homage in the IRS office with there's a scene where she's like running from a bad guy. No, there's a scene where she's like hiding from one of the bad guys.
Cubicles,
and there's like a cubicle scene. Yeah. And I'm like, I love it. It's like Matrix homages. Well, I would have expected it to pick up a phone, like it almost been like a banana phone.
Yeah. Well, it's not directly like this is, but it's like similar because it's about there's like lots of kung fu fights.
I think it's a nice visual homage though, and there's a couple of things.
But I'm just saying, like the way it's presented and that, it's a much more effective Matrix movie than Resurrections was.
100%.
And it's a much better movie in every way, both technically and story character-wise.
And another reason that like this movie is so impressive is because it shows, I mean, even Marvel know this, but it shows Marvel as well that you don't need a million green screens to pull off an effective action scene. You don't need...
that's what's so great about this movie is like mostly like practical and just they do a lot of crazy things just through like editing and
it's like if they have to use green screen or CGI, it's done sparingly, and it's what they do use is okay. It's pretty well done.
I mean, they accomplish a lot in this movie just through simple costume and makeup.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with Jobu Tabaki or
Jobu Tapaki.
Yeah, as we would say, it's like old school Hollywood.
Juju Chewbacca? She keeps getting the name. Yeah, so funny. This movie's so funny.
It's hilarious. But it's like old school Hollywood filmmaking in the sense of like, okay, well, we didn't have CGI way back then.
Yeah,
so it's like you said, we can pull it off with camera tricks. Yeah, we can pull it off with costume editing.
Well, from reading the trivia, there was a lot of in this movie where they filmed it at a high frame rate so they could slow it down later on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it makes perfect sense. There's some scenes in the movie that look like it was just would have been CG or visual effects, but it was just that they shot it really fast and slowed it down, and then it looked like weird or trippy or quick or whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, you can do all sorts of things with it. I think like, have you guys seen? So it's directed by is it Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert?
Yes,
I think. And collectively they're known as Daniels.
Yeah.
So it's like directed by Daniels.
Dan and Daniel. Yes.
Yeah. And have you seen their first film? Swiss Army Man?
No.
It's
a Daniel Radcliffe movie.
Yeah, that's a similar movie to this one where it's just like something really crazy and absurd and silly and funny, but it also hits you in the feels. It also tugs at your heartstrings. And like this movie has that as well, where it's so funny and crazy and there's so much going on. And yet you're always grounded with the characters. You always feel for the characters. And each character, even though there's a lot of different characters, each character has their own little arc.
Yeah.
And their own little resolution. And each multiverse and each little funny joke that you think, oh, just hot dog fingers, that's a funny joke. It pays off.
Yeah.
Everything pays off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did they write this? How did they edit this? How did they make this? It's insane.
I sent you guys a joke tweet that I saw on Twitter about a guy who's like, my son is crying in a movie about hot dog fingers. I don't know if I can love him anymore. And I was like, but then you watch the movie and it's like the hot dog fingers start out as a joke, but then it turns out into this sweet love story.
Same with like the Rakakuni. It's like it's just a throwaway joke and you're like, that's funny. And then it becomes this whole emotional...
they're like, you thought that was funny? Yeah. Here's the reality of hot dog fingers. But I thought it was funny. It's like, do you know what happens when you have hot dog fingers or whatever? You get really good with your feet.
Yeah. And it pays off and then she uses that to defeat the villain. It's just like...
Spoilers.
Yeah, but not really because...
they don't even know who the villain is.
And there's so much going on. That's not just the only...
How does that... That doesn't say anything. She uses hot dog fingers to defeat the villain. It's like, well, that could mean anything.
Yeah, but like...
But yeah, Rakakuni. Hilarious. Like... Awesome.
The Daniels, if you've seen their other like their short films or their music videos, like they're the kind of creative filmmakers who come up with a crazy idea, an absurd, silly, just dumb idea that most people, even very creative people, would say, "Oh, wouldn't that be funny?" and then move on. They embrace that.
Yeah.
And they go for it and they know how to do it well.
Yeah.
And it pays off. And I'm just in awe of their talent because like I said,
they're young filmmakers too, right?
Yeah, they're in their early mid-30s. Like they're like I said, it's like the best edited and directed movie I've seen in a long time because there's so much going on and they have limited resources.
Even just even at the start, I was blown away. There's like a really nice tracking shot of just walking through the house, upstairs of the laundromat, and it's just it's just really nice filmmaking.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we always talk about like mainstream movies and stuff, which, let's face it,
what mainstream movies?
Yeah, we've talked about it only consists of superhero movies basically, and like kids animated movies and a couple other things. But
I did see a tweet. I'm sorry, this is I'm sure you'll agree with this one, maybe not. I saw a tweet the other day that I thought was really interesting. There was a lady on Twitter who said that she's been watching a lot of 80s and 90s movies. And she said that she just can't watch the MCU anymore or the DC movies. She goes, because they're also bland looking.
Yeah.
She's like, I've been watching 80s and 90s movies, and she said she's never been happier before. She watched Rush Hour, and she said every frame of Rush Hour looked like a Renaissance painting compared to the MCU.
But that,
and we've been watching lots of old movies lately, and man,
we talk about it every week. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s,
glorious,
even early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's like films were films. Some of them were bad, some of them were good, some of them were great, some of them were awful. But they were films. They looked cool. Like, some of them looked cool. They did things practically. They came out at a movie theater and like they had some sort of impact, even if it was negative. Now it's all content. It's CGI. They film it quickly in front of a green screen. They churn it out. It's all bland. It's flat.
It's all and it's all designed to get us to watch the sequel or the next thing in the
chain. It's to get subscribers for your service, to stay subscribed, to keep watching on the service. That's all. Even if it comes out at the theater like an MCU thing, it's to get you to subscribe to the MCU, to subscribe to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And like, even non-superhero movies, the ones that do come out, are often kind of boring and bland and flat.
I know we're going
mainstream movies.
Yeah.
But like smaller studios like A24 and movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once are the only thing that feels like when we watch an 80s or 90s movie and go, wow, this is what filmmaking is supposed to be.
Yeah, and they don't get released anywhere.
I said to Nathan,
they get released, but like I said, I had to go to the Sun Theatre, which I'd never been to before. It's pretty cool there.
That's cool.
But, you know, it takes time and money to go out of your way. And it's like, sometimes, especially when we're working, got other stuff going on.
Yeah, it can be awkward,
And there's so many movies coming out all the time that I want to see.
Yeah.
That I don't have time to go see. And so at the end of the year, I'm like, this is the best movie I've seen. But there's so many movies out there. And the movies we do get to see and talk about on the show are mainstream, boring-ass movies that we end up complaining about. And that's why this show largely ends up being negative, because most mainstream movies now that come out locally are crap.
The roundtable episodes are pretty positive because we just...
When we talk about old movies.
You know what we need to do? We need to have like our own Tuesday Reviewing Film Festival at the end of a year, right? Where all the movies we didn't get an opportunity to go see...
Well,
we watch on our own sort of time.
Yeah. So, that's what I'm planning to do in December, is like catch up on all the movies,
all the good ones, I should say. All
the sort of indie movies that come out to like the Nova or the Astor that I haven't had time to go out and see.
Yeah, when they eventually get released to streaming or digital or
you
Blu-ray.
have to wait. That's the thing, is like, to do an actual best of 2021
we're woefully behind. Yeah.
You'd have to, like, unless you just watch those movies all the time, you'd have to wait a couple of years and then do a retrospective best of 2022 kind of thing. Because I'm still catching up on last year and the year before.
Yeah.
Not to mention the last 100 years of cinema.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing, is you're never going to... But
I guess you have to pick your winners.
And I think you guys would agree. I'm confident that doesn't matter any other new movie that came out this year that we do see that we really like. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once will still remain very high, if not at the top of the best movies.
You know, it wasn't as emotionally impactful to me as Deer Hunter was, but in a certain way,
they're very different.
They're very different. But what I mean is, like, it gave me that sense of emotional connection to the film.
Yeah.
That most films I don't like. Most films I appreciate, but I don't usually get so deep into the feeling of it all.
Yeah.
It has to be a special movie for me to really get that resonance going emotionally. But this did that for me.
What I love about it as well,
a huge positive,
is not only is it really funny,
it gets you,
but it's like tugs at your heartstrings, very emotional. But also, like, I love the message of the movie of, like,
It's a message empathy, of kindness and acceptance.
Empathy is the best weapon. Like, be kind to each other, and
like the scene where the two rock scenes where the Evelyn
That's
Rock.
Probably my favorite part of the movie.
The Evelyn Rock moves towards the
when we saw
Jobu Tabaki's rock, and the other rock's like, "Leave me alone, stop it."
And it's like,
no, I'm coming to get you.
It's all subtitled because rocks can't speak, and it's like, ha 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 ha, funny joke. Like when I saw that in the cinema, I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Like the whole movie's crazy. There's kung fu fighting and sci-fi weirdness and guys heads blowing up and turning into glitter and like dogs being used as nunchucks and all this crazy stuff is going on, and then it just cuts. And it's just like two rocks in the desert and silent. And I'm like, what's going on? And then it's subtitled with no audio, no dialogue. And it's just subtitled. Ha ha ha. Hey, hello. Yeah. Oh, you're here too. Hello. Ha ha. And I'm like, this is the best movie I've ever seen.
Genius.
It's so good.
But I think the movie's message is really also it's kind of what people need at the moment. It's just be more kind, have more empathy.
I think we always need that message, don't we?
Yeah, we always, unfortunately, people don't learn. But I think it's also good because it's wrapped up in this movie's all genres. Like it's a action movie, it's a comedy, it's
sci-fi.
A drama, it's sci-fi, fantasy.
It's how we said. It's how you trick the psychopaths into learning the right messages in the movie. Yeah. You keep it subtle.
Exactly.
You wrap it in an action movie.
It's entertaining, you know but it's also it's also a movie with a message. Not a message.
It has
movie,
themes.
But exactly.
Well, it's a movie about like learning to love's the wrong way to put it, but it's a movie
learning
about
to be accepting. And
acceptance, and also understand that everybody has their own things going on as well. Yeah. So it's like you might be having a tough day, but so is everyone else. Yeah. So it's like, like Nathan said, be kind.
Yeah. I mean, it also has that kind of, we'll say, Chinese family expectation element to it, which was still part of that.
High expectations for the kids.
It's still part of that message in the movie is not being so, you can't control everything.
And that's another thing. Yeah. It's like, we don't usually see movies with predominantly Asian cast.
Yeah.
Like, it's
not in like a Hollywood context. Yeah.
So that's cool too.
And I think it is also, like we see so much of like the kind of, we'll say, the tiger mum kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice. Like it's nice to see a movie that's about growth and about acceptance and kindness.
Especially because when you look at me as a white man, the expert on all this stuff,
as we are,
Tuesday Review, the expert on all the stuff, experts on all the stuff.
I imagine it's difficult to be the child of an immigrant because especially when you grow up in a place like America or even Australia or anywhere else, like a first world kind of Western in quotation marks country. You grow up with a certain set of values, but you might have different values at home. So there's like that clash of the like in the movie,
generations.
Like Joy's.
Well, the Daniel said, it's just like the hero of the story is our parents, and the villain is us, basically.
Well, I think they even like that's even sort of seen in the movie where, like for instance, Joy's Chinese is quite bad, and she can't really communicate that well with her grandfather.
Parents,
Yeah.
And, obviously, and Evelyn's English isn't as great.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's all communication clash, I guess.
Yeah.
Of values
and that feeds into the theme of like, if we can just talk to each other and make empathy. Our feelings known, then, we can...
Just be nice to your local Waymond.
Waymond is too pure.
Waymond is the heart of the movie.
He really...
Should we talk about the cast? Because Ke Huy Quan, who played Short Round in... Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, and he played Data in the Goonies, and basically by the late 80s no one was hiring an Asian kid to be in their movie. It's not like there were a lot of Asian roles in Hollywood movies, and so he basically after a while like went, stopped acting, and he did some stuff behind the camera, and then it wasn't until Crazy Rich Asians came out in 2018 where he's like, oh, maybe I could come out of retirement and actually act again. Like maybe.
Yeah.
And then like literally a week later, he got the call from the Daniel saying, do you want to audition for this movie? And so now he's like back acting, and he's like in a Disney Plus show with Michelle Yeoh, and he's probably doing other stuff as well. So I mean, it's
awesome.
And he's the best character. He plays the best character in the movie.
Waymond is so wholesome and just so nice, and
he's just like your everyday dad. He just wants to survive this horrible experience.
But he's also happy.
Yeah,
like he's so positivity.
Like, and that's part of at the end of the movie is just like, how can you be positive all the time? And he's like, that's like what I do. Like that's how I. What
else is there?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so good. And yeah, he's like his martial arts scenes are really good. And when he plays Alpha Waymond, who's like
he like
cool,
switches on and off. And
badass Waymond.
Yeah. And then there's like Wonka Y Universe where he's like smoking the cigarette and there's like raining and he's like really
he's so cool.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. I like we said, Michelle Yeoh is the main character, Evelyn. She's great in everything.
Performance.
But I don't know if I've ever seen a comedic performance from her. At least not a traditionally comedic performance. No. Like I'd have to go through her IMDb, and she's done so many movies. Usually I know her from like action movies and dramas and stuff. But I'm like, she's so funny in this movie.
Yeah,
I think most of the cast is pretty funny.
Everyone. It's so well written.
Yeah, it is. It's easy to be funny when the movie is this tightly written.
Yeah,
like
Jamie Lee Curtis. Obviously, we talk about it. She's awesome. And I also was really impressed with the actress who plays Joy, Stephanie Hsu.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen her in anything, and I thought she was really good. Like I'd be interested to see like where she goes from here. But I also want to talk about James Hong, who plays Gong Gong, the grandpa.
Yeah,
he's like 92 years old.
Oh wow!
He's been in like a million movies, like uncountable amount of movies over like 70 years, whatever, probably 80 years now, whatever. Like, he kills it in this movie.
Yeah, he's good.
He's so funny.
Yeah,
just everyone is great. This movie's great. I love it.
It's awesome. Best movie of the year.
Yeah, like it's honestly, if
you would have seen Stephanie Hsu in Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, who did she? Oh, she played one of the friends that they go out to the bar with at the end.
I shall have a look.
Yeah, I don't remember the characters' names though. So if you say who she played, I probably won't remember. But
she played Sue, but I'm not sure who. I'm not sure who that is.
I think it's one of their friends that they go have a drink with.
Yeah.
I think it is one of Awkwafina's friends.
Yeah. But like, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the movie,
please go watch it.
Highly recommend it.
I think it's on Paramount Plus, but I don't know if that's the Australian Paramount Plus because I know it's on like a different regions.
Yeah, it is available on Blu-ray and 4K, so that's good because a lot of movies don't get released.
You should probably be able to rent it as well.
Yeah, I'd assume so.
You can rent it on Amazon Prime for $3.
Dude, honestly, check it out.
Worth it.
$3 well spent.
Yeah. Like, honestly, if you listen to this show and you're always like, oh, they complain about this, they say this, they say that, I'm like, just watch this movie, and if you're not as impressed by it,
we'll give you your money back.
We will.
No, we won't.
We'll yell you're wrong into a microphone next week.
Yeah. Like we said at the start of the show, whether you like the movie or not, send us a message at Tuesday Review AU or email us thetuesdayreview@outlook.com. So yeah, let us know. But yeah, the highest recommendation, best movie of the year by far.
It doesn't even have Tom Cruise in it, so it's got that extra reach.
I would say it's easily the best movie of the year, but Top Gun is pretty good. So it's I can't say it's by far and away the best movie.
I really like Top Gun, but I would say Everything Everywhere All at Once is way more impressive.
I think it's also more impressive because it's unexpected.
Also, it's more impressive because it's this good and so less,
less budget, less time. Like, you know when we often review movies and we're like, oh, they just need a little bit more time, a bit more money.
No, this is
when
perfect.
You're this talented, like the Daniels and their cast and crew, when you're working on a tight schedule and with a tight budget, you can make something like this. Holy crap.
Yeah, I know.
Then again, you get into that conversation of if you gave the Daniels $200 million, would they shit the bed?
Yeah,
because it's that conversation where it's
this is why smaller indie kind of studios like A24 often end up with good movies is because
necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, one, and two, because there's less money involved, there's less studio meddling, less cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Whereas as soon as you give someone $200 million, there's going to be more people asking questions, more executives and producers at the
more
shoot
oversight.
Asking questions, going, why are you doing this? Don't do that.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons a lot of like 70s, 80s and 90s movies are good is because they had big budgets, but oftentimes the filmmaker was just kind of left alone.
Yeah.
And that's why when you get more creative mainstream movies back in the day than you do now.
That also kind of stems from competition back in the day. There was more competition between studios, so there would be more pressure to have a good product,
Well, I think there's still lots of competition now. It's just
there's less
different
competition.
Yeah, different type of.
Well, yeah, I guess because Disney owns half and Amazon
Gobble,
owns the other
gobble,
half.
gobble.
Yeah.
So there is less competition, and I feel like back in the day when you had all those different studios all competing, the competition to have a good product. If you had the better movie, people were going to go see that movie.
Yeah, probably only the best scripts were being accepted.
So it was more like, movies were just better because they had to be better. Not like now, it's like they can just throw out any Marvel movie. And
that's a good point. Yeah, it's like a lot of movies are mediocre now is because they're just content.
It's also, what else are you going to go do? You're not going to go to the movies? Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
We've chilled out all the movies.
Well,
we have, but that's because... That's because there's nothing coming out. We don't want to pay for the rest.
Well, the stuff that is coming out, we're not interested anymore.
Yeah.
I like the MCU. I watch all the movies. I watch all the shows. But
we got the fatigue.
Yeah, I didn't see Black Panther at the cinema, and I don't plan on seeing Shazam or Ant-Man at the cinema. And I'll just wait for Disney Plus because I'm paying for it anyway.
Yeah,
I still want to watch. I'll still enjoy it.
We'll still review them when they come out on streaming.
We'll go to Alan's and watch it on his fancy pants projector.
Yeah, why are we spending all this money for something we know what we're going to get, and it's not going to be that great? I mean,
100%.
We've discussed many times on this show. I have more fun when I'm just at home and I chuck on a Blu-ray and I watch an old 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, whatever movie.
I've been having a blast. Man. Watching movies.
Well, should we use that as a segue?
Yeah, having a blast.
Well, let's let's go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the fun movies we've been watching.
Yeah, it's one specifically.
You're back on the Tuesday review. So now we've segued into other movies we've been enjoying lately.
Well, specifically
having a blast.
Specifically, we were just talking about watching older movies and enjoying them the most, and we were just talking about movies back in the day, still mainstream, decent budget releases, but still kind of creative, and they let the filmmaker do their thing. And a perfect example of this is a movie we just rewatched recently, one of my favorite movies of all time, RoboCop. Now, anyone who's a long-time listener to the show has probably heard about me talk about this movie before.
So good.
If Apocalypse Now is my favorite movie of all time, and I really had to choose a favorite movie of all time, I'd choose that. RoboCop is probably my second favorite movie of all time. I unironically think it is one of the greatest films ever made. Unironically, I think it's amazing. I think everything about it is incredible. As I've discussed before, Paul Verhoeven, the director.
Not the ABC personality.
No one knows who you're talking about, Callum. No one watches the ABC except for you news nerd. Yeah, Paul Verhoeven, the director. Probably my favorite director. Maybe him or Akira Kurosawa, but probably Paul Verhoeven, my favorite director. RoboCop is amazing, and I love it so much, and everything about it is incredible.
I mean, I'd seen it before, but I hadn't seen it in a great many years. I mean, 10 plus years. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah.
So I knew the plot and all that, but it's the little things you forget when you haven't seen a movie in a very long time.
Yeah.
I forgot, when I first saw it, I would have been in high school, I guess. And I didn't appreciate just how cyberpunk. I mean, actually cyberpunk is. And I can appreciate that more fully now. I'm like, wow, you look at there's not a lot of neon. It's a very gritty, metallic looking cyberpunk dystopia.
Yeah.
And I'm so there for it. Because I understand the neon cyberpunk is that's the popular version. But
this is still very cyberpunk.
I like the more Western kind of the dirty metal look. That cyberpunk gritty aesthetic with like the leathers and the like I said, just the metal look, the reflections, and
I think because when you say cyberpunk, people automatically think of Blade Runner, which is the quintessential cyberpunk movie. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there are other movies that are more stripped back with, you know, it doesn't have to be neon drenched kind of film noir-y.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to jack into the Matrix to be cyberpunk. You know. And I think RoboCop is a perfect example of a cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And there's not that many great cyberpunk movies. There's a lot of kind of fun B movies. There's the main ones like Blade Runner and Matrix. But other than that, there's not a lot of really great cyberpunk stuff.
But so it's interesting because, like, you know, I've seen Paul Verhoeven movies before. I watched, if you listen back a while ago on the show, I talked about watching Total Recall and how, like, I thought that the second half of the movie kind of looked a bit cheap, and you know,
I remember when you said that, and I was like trying to articulate how my feelings towards it, and I think the best way I can describe it and why I love Paul Verhoeven so much, he makes, like, especially like RoboCop and Total Recall and Starship Troopers, he makes comic book movies. They're not based on comic books. They're not comic book movies in the way that an MCU is, but he makes like live action 80s, 90s comic panels come to life. It's that kind of, you know, the hair and like all the buff men and the beautiful women, and it's kind of like everything's cool and like
I get you.
And I think you were talking about how you didn't really like some of the production design in Total Recall. I'm like, it fits into that aesthetic of like, it looks like a comic book panel.
I watched RoboCop.
Yeah.
And I can see where every dollar of that budget went.
Yeah.
Every set looks just as I think it should look. Every shot of the camera, and I'm not, you know, it's a fantastic movie. I probably don't like it quite as much as you.
I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, but I'm like, but that's nothing against the film.
That's not true. A lot of people love RoboCop.
But no, I'm saying, I don't mean to jerk it off too much.
Yeah.
But like every shot, I think is well, as it needs to be.
First, we should say the reason this has come up is because you got the 4K released recently, and I said, when you watch it, I'll watch it so then we can talk about it. Because I've seen the movie, I don't know I can't even count how many times. But this is the first time I've seen it on 4K.
Yeah.
And the transfer was incredible. Just beautiful.
You can see every pore in a person's face, every stitch in the clothing. This is what 4K is meant to be.
Yeah.
You watch the movies you love, and it blows you away all again.
Yeah, it's like, we talked about it. It's like watching the movie for the first time.
Yeah, and man, and RoboCop's just so cool. You know, and like I appreciate it more now as an adult. Yeah. You know, but like the even the start where Murphy, spoilers for RoboCop. Yeah. Where Murphy gets gunned down. Yeah. And like his arm comes off and the blood shoots out. Yeah. I'm like, man, it's great to see practical effects. It's great to see like. I'm not condoning violence, but man, it's great to see some just good old-fashioned violence on screen.
One, Paul Verhoeven and violence is like...
Yeah, hand in hand.
Yeah, like he and his version of violence, again, it's very comic booky. It's over the top. It's hyper realistic.
Yeah.
When people get shot, they don't just get shot, they explode.
Arms come off. Yeah.
Like the bit where Ed 209 kills that executive and he's just shooting him for like half an hour. And it's like, and he's like these giant squibs.
Chunks.
You know, the squibs in this movie is insane. It's like blood coming out and he keeps getting shot. And then he finally dies and it's like... And someone's like, call a paramedic. And it's hilarious. Yeah. You're like, what the hell?
I laughed out loud. There's the scene when Murphy becomes RoboCop and he like comes, I guess he goes to his first call and there's a woman getting assaulted. Yeah. And then, he scares him away.
Your move, creep.
Yeah. And then he goes to the woman, what is it? You have been sexually traumatized. I will call a rape center. Yeah. Anyway, it's hilarious.
He saves her from being assaulted and then she's like, thank you so much. And he's just like... You have suffered a trauma. Yeah. I will contact the rape crisis center.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So that's another thing. This movie is hilarious because like Paul Verhoeven is a master of satire, and Ed Neumeier, who co-wrote the script, who also wrote Starship Troopers, which Paul Verhoeven also directed, which is another masterpiece of satire. it's a very funny, kind of witty, satirical take on corporate America.
Yeah.
You know, greed is good 80s.
Yeah.
And, you know, crime-ridden.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah. And I'm sure we've talked about this before where, you know, unfortunately, it's more relevant now than it was back then with like corporate-controlled military and police, for-profit prisons, stuff like that. And yeah, like, I mean, all great science fiction is like about what's happening now. It's just more exaggerated or in the future. And
so we haven't learned any lessons.
No.
Basically.
No. But yeah, well, just, you know, what a fantastic film. Like, I don't mean to keep hating on modern cinema, but like I spend my time watching these older movies, and it just it brings me so much more happiness than watching some bland looking CG movie.
We talk about it every week where they don't make movies like this anymore.
And you know, the only reason I keep bringing it up on the show is because I watch these fantastic films, and it makes me realize what we've lost.
Exactly, like. When I talked about it a few weeks ago, when I started this show, I was like, I wanted to share cinema, my love of cinema with people. But we started reviewing mainstream, you know, modern, contemporary releases because it's like, oh, I guess people listen to a movie podcast. They want to know what's out. They want to know what to see. They want to hear a review about the new movie. And it largely just becomes boring, repetitive crap. That
on this, you know, on that note, right? One of the few comments we do have a constructive review, I guess, of the show on a Apple podcast or whatever. I think it's a different show now because we had to uncouple from our previous host, so you can't see it now if you look up the current
Apple
reviews. But someone commented saying that they'd found movies they didn't know existed through us.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I remember that one,
we talked about it back
the
years ago.
The review was, I don't like when they talk about politics because they whine. And then he goes, but I found some pretty cool movies I didn't know about.
I don't remember the second part. I only remember the first part.
No, and then but then the review went on to say, but the movies that we're passionate about that are a little bit more obscure, he liked us for that, right?
Yeah.
So our shows are generally better when we talk about the movies that we enjoy.
That's why I've always been confused and frustrated with this show because I'm like, what is it? Like, who is it for? Like, we're reviewing a movie, but it's not because I keep saying, like, I'd never really enjoyed doing it, and I got confused as like, who's listening? Is it people who want to know what's out and want to know, or do they just like us talking about movies? And so that's why I wanted to do more of these kinds of shows where it's like, let's actually talk about movies we like.
Also, it makes me feel better talking about these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
I leave happier.
Yeah. It's like our show isn't just complaining. Like, there are movies we actually love.
I do want listeners to understand that if an interesting movie does come out and we're able to see it, we will talk about it. It's only because we're in a kind of drought at the moment. We're in a weird Hollywood's still in a weird post-COVID spot. And not just that, but distribution as well.
And it's Christmas; things are expensive.
So, like, we're you know, when opportunities are available for us to review obscure cinema for you, we will absolutely be on that.
Like we just discussed, like the best movies are the ones that don't come to the mainstream local cinema, and so it's harder for us to go out and see them. You know, I might go and see them, but you guys haven't. So it's like I hesitate to talk about them on the show. Or something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's like I saw it earlier in the year. I mentioned on the show, but it's like really I didn't want to gush about it so much because I'm like, well, these guys haven't seen it, and I don't know.
Anything you do say might be a spoiler.
Yeah, and it's just like, is the audience going to be really interested in this movie that some of them might not even... And that's another thing. I'm not exactly sure who listens and why they listen.
Nona listens.
Well, yeah, maybe if she accidentally turns the dial while we're live, but
don't
you know what I'm
saying.
She
might listen on purpose.
I'm like, because I've been doing this show for so long, even you know the old show. My thing has always been like, well, I guess it's just people who want to know what's out, kind of thing. But it's like, I'm assuming film nerds listen to this. The few listeners we have. So it's like, if I do mention Everything Everywhere All at Once, or if I do mention a Fellini movie, I'm hoping they know what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean,
but I'm not sure.
Also, Google. You know, like we shouldn't necessarily be holding people's hands.
That's the thing. Is if you hear something and say, "Oh, I don't know what that is," that's interesting. I guess that's why people listen. Anyway, this is all to say that RoboCop is one of the greatest movies ever made. I love it so much. Paul Verhoeven is one of my favorite directors, and rewatching this movie in 4K for the first time, even though having seen it a million times,
seeing it again for the first time.
Like seeing it again for the first. like all great movies, you can watch it a million times and always find something new.
What did you find that was new?
I never realized. I just never realized.
I never realized he was bald.
He's only watching VHS tapes on a tiny television.
I never realized that when RoboCop's at the primary school and the newscast is interviewing, it's called Lee Iacocca School. I thought that was funny. I'd never noticed that before. But yeah, no. What was I saying? I was in the middle of something.
Every time you watch a movie,
like all great movies, every time you watch a movie, every time you rewatch it, even if you've seen it 100 times, you notice something new. Every time I watch it, I like it just as much as the first time. And rewatching this movie, you know, like we were just talking about, is why I love RoboCop is why I love movies.
Yeah.
Paul Verhoeven is why I wanted to be a filmmaker. Life beat that out of me, but you know,
we might get there
one day. We'll do a Randall from Clerks and have a heart attack and then be like, all right, we got to do something.
Yeah.
But you know, like these movies that I love is like, this is why I love movies. This is why I wanted to be a filmmaker.
They just make you happy, don't they?
Yeah, I was just like, it's so good. It's so funny and it's so gory and silly and yet smart.
Yeah.
And you know, someone once said that Paul Verhoeven makes intelligent trash. Like he makes gory, silly B movies, but in the most intelligent, arty way possible.
Look, it's the Deathstalker of science fiction.
No,
I'm already joking. Don't worry.
That you just misunderstood everything.
You know the Telltale Games? It's like everybody disliked that. That
I was
comment,
joking,
no one
don't
likes that comment. Callum.
Yeah, no.
Callum's mic's getting muted for the next 2 minutes. No.
But yeah, it's just such an incredible movie. It's so funny, and the cast is incredible, and the special effects.
Oh man, like the practical, you know.
Right? Yeah, like Rob Bottin, like the sort of practical kind of animatronic gore effects, and the design of the suit is so cool.
Yeah, I sent Nathan a message.
And Phil Tippett does the Ed 209 sequence. Like,
was it in the Tuesday review?
The cinematography is fantastic. Yost Vacano. Oh, the score.
The score.
Basil Polidaris, I think. Polidoris. Incredible score. One of my favorite scores of all time. He also did the Conan the Barbarian score. I think he did Starship Troopers as well. He's an incredible composer. One of the best film scores of all time. One of my favorite.
I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
But that scene there.
Yeah.
Is that a matte painting or did they build that?
No. They went to an old abandoned steel mill in like Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah.
And they shot the climax of the movie there. So when they're driving around and the guy gets melted by the toxic waste.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's the crane with the metal pieces and all that. That's all that one location that they found.
Yeah, awesome. You know, like it just looks so great on the screen.
It's so cool.
Like they could, they could have made something.
And also, like that, kind of tying into what we were talking about with Everything Everywhere All at Once, is like this is a movie. It didn't cost a heap of money. They probably put a lot more money into it then than they would have now. Now they wouldn't even make it, and if they did, it'd be like $5 million and go to Netflix or something. But it's not the biggest budget movie in the world. But like Callum said, like the budget's on the screen and it looks fantastic. But also, like we were just talking about before, like there's an emotional core.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's funny and silly and gory and over the top and whatever, but there's the biting satire. And there's an emotional core to Murphy and his journey and
the loss of the family and such.
Reclaiming his humanity at the end.
Oh,
also, if this is my second favorite movie of all time, and I unironically think it's one of the greatest movies of all time, I truly believe the end shot, the last shot of the film, is unironically probably top 5 to 10 shots of movies.
Do you want to remind me?
It's he kills the bad guy and flies out the window. And then the old man, the boss, says, nice shooting, son. What's your name? And he like turns to the camera and he's
Murphy.
like, Murphy. And he smiles and then it turns and walks away. And then it hard cuts to black and it just says RoboCop. It goes, da-na-na-na-na. I'm like, best ending to a movie, like top 5 to 10 best endings to any movie ever.
You know, like you said, it's like a comic book ending.
Yeah, it's a comic book movie, but that's not based on a comic book and isn't a silly superhero movie.
Yeah, it's like that. It's that great pulpy sensibility.
Yeah, but it's pulpy, but like I said, it has the satire, but also has an emotional core, and you care about
they got a genius to make pulp trash.
Yeah. And it's also, it's very economical. It's an hour and 40 minutes. It does what it needs to do, and it gets out. You're not even introduced to Murphy's family until after he's dead, and he has a dream about it. Usually that wouldn't work. Usually, like now, a studio would be like, no, you have to have a flashback and you have to have an introductory sequence. They're like, no. It's just bang, 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 bang. And it's so well written, so well directed, so well edited, so well shot.
Yeah.
That you know where you are, you know the
never
motivations,
lost. Yeah.
You're never lost. And at the end of the movie, when he says Murphy and he reclaims his humanity, you're like, yes.
Yeah.
And I can imagine seeing this in 1987 in a crowded theater in LA or New
Everyone
York.
would cheer.
Everyone would cheer.
Yeah.
This is what, like, best movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's cinema makes you excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
Makes you happy to watch it. It thrills you.
Like, speaking of, intelligent trash, like when Paul Verhoeven first read the script, like he read the first few pages and he's like, this is garbage, and he threw it out. Because he thought the same thing most people think is like a silly B movie. His wife took it out of the trash and she read it and she said, I think you should read it.
Yeah, there's more to it. Yeah.
And he reread it, and then when I can't remember what he said. Paul Verhoeven said, I think it was either when Murphy got killed or when he first has the dream about the men who killed him or his family or something. That's when he's like, I'm going to make this movie.
Yeah.
And getting someone like Paul Verhoeven to direct this is why it's so great, and why it works so well. And obviously, I think one of the reasons it is so great is because all the other elements come together to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk about this movie for hours and hours and hours, but I mean, I don't know.
Is number 2 worth watching?
Okay, so number 2 gets a bad rap. Everyone says it's crap. It's not worth watching. I enjoy number 2. It's not as good as the first. Nowhere near as good as the first. But it has like enjoyable moments. Has some fun, the funny commercials they do. Has some.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, it has stuff like that. It's got some good action sequences. Frank Miller, I think, co-wrote this script.
Could be good, could be bad.
This is late 80s, early 90s Frank Miller, so it's like still he's kind of like, yeah, cool. And he's actually he has a cameo in the second movie. It's okay. I enjoy it. The third one is garbage. Don't go near it. Don't even look it up.
Oh, really?
Don't even get a whiff of it. The third one is garbage.
Really?
Just irredeemable.
Was it directed by Verhoeven?
No, he didn't do the second one either. But the second one at least has some of his energy.
Yeah.
Actually, funnily enough, Irvin Kershner directed the second one. He directed Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, okay.
The best Star Wars movie. Even though I like Return of the Jedi more. But I'm not delusional. It's the second. Empire's the best. But the second movie's pretty fun, but third movie's just and there was a TV series which I never really watched, but I think it's just kind of, those they did a lot of those 90s spin-off movies trying to cash in, and those were never. I think they made a cartoon. It was like a kids. They kept trying to make kids cartoons out of like violent adult action movies. Like there was like a Rambo cartoon.
Oh man, don't even get me started. It's still kind of happening today. They make bloody like kids clothes for Call of Duty games which are rated. It still happens.
Gaming industry, that's a whole nother.
And like Twitch recently has the youngest ever like partner, and it's like a 5-year-old for Call of Duty.
Jesus.
And I'm like, he shouldn't be able. Twitch's terms of service should disallow that.
Yeah.
And he's playing a game which is not old enough to play. Actually, he should be disallowed. His accounts need to be banned.
Speaking of like,
stop endorsing this.
Yeah. Speaking of like, this movie's so great, like, because it's smart, but it's also fun, and this is one of the things we're lacking now in movies. Is not only do these movies not get made because they don't want to spend money on them, they don't want to be they can't make them R-rated because they got to appeal to the masses and whatever, but also like just smart writing and filmmaking. Like, you don't see action movies.
Yeah, good quality action
Good action movies where it's like, oh, this is a smart, like, well, this is a good script.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like obviously, you know, like I said, me, the expert in all things. I'm from what you can tell, especially on streaming services like Netflix and even frankly even on MCU Hollywood movies, it doesn't seem like script quality is the first thing they look for in a film.
No.
And I think that's a real tragedy because like a lot of people lately have been feeling MCU burnout.
Yeah.
And you know, hating on the MCU, and I think that we wouldn't be feeling that if the scripts were a lot higher quality, because the directors are great. A lot of these directors who make these MCU movies, they come off of the backs of, you know, A24 hipster movies and things like Nomadland.
What was that movie we were talking about off air, Callum? And you were talking about how A Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
You think of A Knight's Tale and you're like, oh, that's a fun kind of comedy, kind of action-y, adventure-y kind of early 2000s kind of movie, whatever. But you're like, oh, there was a film professor in the US who was using it as a teaching tool.
A teaching tool, because it's
to
perfect
say, like,
script.
How you script out. And it's just like, we don't even get movies like A Knight's Tale anymore.
No.
Like,
because when you break down A Knight's Tale...
And you think about A Knight's Tale and you're like, well, that's pretty inoffensive and fun. And why don't they make movies like that anymore? And even if they did, it wouldn't be half as good because it'd all be green screen. And it wouldn't be as well written.
Yeah, I think that we need a survival of the fittest of scripts. You know what I mean? Yeah, but like we were just discussing, it's all about content now. So it's like it doesn't even have to be good. It's just churn it out. Yeah.
And there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, could you Paul Verhoeven's a madman. Like, could you imagine a studio giving someone like that money to make a mainstream action movie now and leaving him alone? And just leaving him alone to do whatever he wanted to do? No, it would be like, you can't do that. You can't do, we're going to cut it down to PG-13. We're going to cut this out. We can't do that. You have to cast this guy. You can't do that. Like, you'd never see a movie like RoboCop anymore.
No. Like I said, it's like, I don't mean this in a downer way, but it's like, this is one of the things that the MCU, like the becoming, if you will, of the mega popcorn movie.
Yeah.
It's what it's kind of taken from us.
You know what I was thinking while watching RoboCop, and you know, it has that comic book style or you know, stylization. And it made me think of Tim Burton's Batman, which came out a couple years after RoboCop. And I'm like, that's a superhero movie, it's a comic book movie. But similar to RoboCop, it just feels kind of, because there's the sets and there's the production design and the costume design is so lavish, and there's got that film noir kind of lighting and it's got the great music and the performances and the cast. So I'm like, why can't superhero movies be like that?
Yeah.
Or like Everything Everywhere All at Once we were just talking about. Why can't they just need to scale it down a little bit?
Yeah.
Do things as practically as possible. Focus on the story and the characters. And you've got
maybe this is a topic for another episode because it's a bit bigger in scope than the time we have left. But I think superhero movies and comic book movies have got themselves in a vicious circle where it has to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, so if Marvel would come out and release a movie that was a bit more restrained in scope, people would be like, why isn't it just a Disney Plus series?
And we've talked about before, like, people have gotten so used to that spectacle means just CGI crap flying around the screen.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I guarantee a lot of people, if they watch RoboCop, would be like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
It looks fake. It's boring. And yet they would watch the new Marvel movie and go, this is the best action movie ever made. Like, I feel like we're at that point for mainstream.
That's what I'm saying. Because I think,
goes.
You know, I mean, we're a broken record on this show, but like the whole CGI issue, I think, like I said, it's to repeat myself again, paraphrase myself. This is what CGI is taken from us.
Yeah,
you know, like practical filmmaking is seen as a cheap way to do things now because it's so much cooler, I guess, to do things in post. You know what I mean? Like,
it's more controllable. We talked about it's more controllable.
But your average film goer would see a CGI monster and be like, nice.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if we saw like a puppet monster or something, a lot of people would be like, lame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or not lame, but they'd be like,
about it.
They'd probably prefer the CGI monster because, like, to a lot of people,
we've
that's
talked
synonymous now with like unreality. So
talked-
fantasy has to have CG.
Yeah, we've talked about it. It's like people got conditioned to like the CGI looks fake still, even to this day, and yet because it's been so overused and because it's got quote unquote photorealistic textures now, people got conditioned to be like, oh, that looks real, and yet the practical effect from the older movie that looks quaint and fake.
Yeah,
and it's just like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just, you've been conditioned. You've gotten used to the fact that this fake CGI thing that looks fake, it looks real because they can put photorealistic textures over this blobby, flat, flubbery thing.
Yeah. Go watch RoboCop.
But yeah,
go watch
RoboCop,
everything
awesome.
all at once.
Everything everywhere all at once in RoboCop.
Have a
great
bagel
movies.
while you eat.
That's it. Watch them back to
while you
back.
watch.
Have a bagel
Yeah.
with everything. Just
Yeah.
all the feelings, all the sides.
Yeah.
That's all the time we got for tonight. Thank
least
you, boys.
At least in this universe.
At least in
Yeah.
this universe, yeah. You can catch all the other episodes of the Tuesday Review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, or wherever you listen with your RSS feed.
Yep.
Again, please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page and contact us
The
at
Twitter.
the Tuesday
yeah,
Review AU.
so
At
Facebook-
Tuesday Review AU.
Yeah, so Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram all have the same handle at Tuesday Review AU. Message us, comment, question, DM or comment, in publicly, whatever you want. I know we don't engage a lot on social media, but if you want to send us a comment or question, do it, and then we could talk about and respond on the show and whatever. And you can also email us at thetuesdayreview@outlook.com.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We're back next week. Adios, cousins.